The Amazon is a colossal mystery, and it's one of the subjects that I explore in depth in America. In it, 5.5 million square kilometers remains almost entirely unstudied by archaeologists.
In 2023, a team of archaeologists followed a magnetic anomaly deep into the Amazon rainforest. They weren't expecting to find anything. The signal was probably just iron deposits in the rock. But when they reached the coordinates, they found a cliff face covered in paintings of animals that went extinct 12,000 years ago. And behind that cliff, sealed shut by rock that had been melted at temperatures exceeding 2,000 degrees, was a chamber that hadn't been opened since the last ice age. What they found inside rewrites everything we thought we knew about ancient humans. We're talking about technology that shouldn't exist, engineering that rivals modern capabilities, and a message left behind by people who knew their world was about to end. This isn't speculation. This is what the evidence shows. And by the end of this video, you'll understand why mainstream archaeology is scrambling to explain it away. Let's start with something most people don't realize. The Amazon rainforest is roughly the size of the entire continental United States. It covers 9 countries. It contains more species of plants and animals than any other ecosystem on Earth. And we have mapped less of its floor than we have mapped the surface of Mars. Think about that. We know more about a planet 140 million miles away than we know about what's hiding beneath the trees in our own backyard. For over a century, explorers have vanished, trying to find the lost cities that indigenous legends speak of. The jungle grows so fast it can swallow a stone building in just a few decades. Vines crack through concrete. Roots pull down walls. The forest doesn't want to give up its secrets. But here's the deal. We don't need machetes to find ruins anymore. We have something called LiDAR. Think of LiDAR as sonar, but instead of sound, it uses light. A plane flies over the canopy and fires billions of laser pulses at the ground. Most of them hit leaves and branches, but some of them slip through the gaps and bounce off the forest floor. A computer strips away all the vegetation from the data, and suddenly you can see the ground as if the trees weren't there at all. In 2022, a survey team led by Dr. Helena Vasquez was scanning a remote region along the Brazil-Colombia border. This area was supposed to be empty. No settlements, no roads, just untouched wilderness. But when the LiDAR data came back, the entire research team went quiet. The screen didn't show random hills and valleys. It showed geometric patterns, perfectly straight lines running for miles in every direction, raised platforms arranged in grids, circular plazas connected by what looked like highways. Nature does not make straight lines. Nature does not build grids. They were looking at a city, a massive city, hidden under the canopy for thousands of years. But the craziest detail wasn't the city itself. It was what they found at the center of the map. Right at the base of a limestone ridge, the laser data revealed a perfect oval shape. It wasn't a natural cave entrance. The rock density readings were completely different from everything around it. It looked like a door, a massive door that had been fused shut. Dr. Vasquez realized immediately what this meant. Someone had sealed that entrance on purpose. They had used heat so intense it melted solid rock into glass. The question was, what were they trying to keep inside? Getting to the site wasn't going to be easy. The coordinates were over 400 miles from the nearest road, deep in territory that locals call the Green Hell. The team assembled in Manaus, Brazil. There were 12 of them: archaeologists, geologists, a botanist, a medical officer, and local guides who knew the river systems. They loaded 3 boats with enough supplies for 6 weeks and set off up the Amazon tributary system. The first week was brutal. The humidity was so thick it felt like breathing through a wet blanket. Mosquitoes swarmed in clouds so dense they blocked out the sun. 2 team members came down with fever and had to be treated with emergency antibiotics. By day 10, the rivers became too shallow for the boats. They had to continue on foot, hacking through vegetation that grew back almost as fast as they cut it. The guides kept finding strange things in the undergrowth: pottery shards, carved stones. Evidence that people had lived here, built here, thrived here, long before the forest took over. But it was on day 18 that everything changed. They had just crossed a ridge when one of the guides stopped dead in his tracks. He pointed at the cliff face ahead of them and said something in Portuguese that made everyone freeze. The rock wasn't gray, it was red. They had found the mural. The painting stretched for nearly 150 feet across the cliff face. It wasn't just a few handprints or simple stick figures. This was an artistic masterpiece, rendered in vivid red and yellow ochre. And the images were terrifyingly accurate. Here's where things become strange. The paintings didn't show jaguars or monkeys or any animal you'd expect to see in the Amazon today. They showed mastodons, massive elephant-like creatures with curved tusks that went extinct at the end of the Ice Age, over 12,000 years ago. They showed giant ground sloths, and when I say giant, I don't mean the cute little creatures you see hanging in trees today. These things stood 12 feet tall on their hind legs. They weighed as much as a car. Their claws were longer than a human forearm. The fact that these animals appeared on the mural meant one thing. The artists had seen them alive. They had walked alongside these creatures. They had painted them from memory. This pushed the age of the site back thousands of years before any sophisticated civilization was supposed to exist in this region. But it wasn't just the animals that caught the team's attention. In the center of the mural, there was a human figure. The figure was standing with arms raised toward the sky. And above the figure was a symbol that made Dr. Vasquez's blood run cold. It was a circle with jagged lines radiating outward. It looked like a sun, but wrong somehow, like a sun that was exploding. Next to the symbol were dots, dozens of them, arranged in a specific pattern. The team's astronomer studied the dots for hours. Then he called everyone over with a voice that was shaking. It wasn't decoration. It was a star map. But the stars weren't in the positions we see today. The pattern matched the night sky exactly as it would have appeared 12,800 years ago. This was the time of the Younger Dryas, a catastrophic climate event that ended the last ice age. Temperatures plummeted, then spiked. Ice sheets collapsed. Sea levels rose dramatically. Entire species went extinct in what seemed like overnight. The mural wasn't just art. It was a historical record, a warning from people who had witnessed the end of their world. And the path depicted in the painting led directly to the sealed door. It took the team 3 more days to clear the vegetation from the base of the cliff and locate the entrance. The door was exactly where the LiDAR had indicated. A smooth oval section of rock, approximately 15 feet tall and 10 feet wide, covered in a pale mineral glaze. The surface was calcite, a crystalline formation that usually takes thousands of years to develop. But this calcite was different. It was harder than normal, almost like glass. And here's the kicker. When they got close to the seal, their equipment started malfunctioning. Compass needles began spinning wildly, pointing toward the door instead of north. GPS units lost signal. Radio communications became nothing but static. Spinning compass needles usually mean one thing: a massive concentration of magnetic material nearby. But limestone isn't magnetic. There shouldn't have been any magnetic field strong enough to cause these effects, unless something inside the chamber was generating it. Dr. Vasquez made the call. They were going to open it. The team set up diamond-tipped drilling equipment, expecting to punch through the calcite seal in a few hours. It took 4 days. The mineral was incredibly dense, far denser than any natural formation should be. It dulled their drill bits. It cracked their equipment. On the 4th day, at approximately 3:47 p.m. local time, the drill broke through. And then something happened that made everyone take 3 steps backward. A hiss. Pressurized air rushed out of the hole with enough force to knock the dust off their clothes. The air had been trapped inside that chamber for over 12,000 years, and it smelled like nothing any of them had ever encountered. It smelled metallic, sharp, like ozone and copper and something else, something ancient. One team member later described it as the smell of a thunderstorm that had been bottled up since the dawn of civilization. They widened the hole. They ran every safety check they could think of. They tested for toxic gases, low oxygen, unstable ground. Everything came back clear. Dr. Vasquez was the first one through. She dropped into darkness, her headlamp cutting a narrow beam through air that hadn't been disturbed in millennia. The first thing she noticed was the floor. It wasn't rough cave rock. It was smooth, level, paved. Inside a sealed chamber from the Ice Age, Someone had built a floor. But it gets more insane. The floor was made of terra preta, a type of man-made supersoil found only in the Amazon. It's engineered to be hyper-fertile and self-regenerating. Modern scientists still don't fully understand how ancient people created it. Finding terra preta here meant this wasn't a natural cave. It was an engineered structure, a bunker. As the rest of the team dropped in, the true scale of the place became clear. The ceiling arched 40 feet above them, supported by pillars of basalt, a volcanic rock that had to have been transported from sources over 200 miles away. The walls were smooth, finished, almost polished. This wasn't primitive construction. This was architecture. They followed the paved path deeper into the mountain, their footsteps echoing in the absolute silence. There were no bats, no insects, no signs of life at all. Just the sound of their own breathing in air that was older than human history. Then the passage opened into a central chamber, and what they saw there defied explanation. Lining the walls, arranged in perfect symmetrical arcs, were bones, massive bones, ribs that measured over 8 feet long, curving upward like the arches of a Gothic cathedral. These were mastodon ribs, the same creatures depicted on the mural outside. But they weren't dumped here randomly. They were installed, set into the floor with precision, positioned to create a structure within the structure, a skeletal framework that turned the chamber into something that looked almost religious. The team stood in silence, trying to process what they were seeing. Someone had dragged the bones of Ice Age giants into this cave, sealed it behind melted rock, and left them arranged like the ceiling of a church. Why? What possible purpose could this serve? The answer was waiting in the center of the room. In the exact center of the bone cathedral, there was a circular depression in the floor. It was filled with liquid that was perfectly still, perfectly black, like a mirror made of darkness. Dr. Vasquez approached carefully. In the Amazon, standing water usually means parasites, bacteria, disease. You don't touch unknown liquids. But this liquid was different. It didn't reflect her headlamp normally. The light seemed to sink into it, absorbed rather than bounced. They took samples using sterile equipment. The field analysis revealed something extraordinary. The liquid wasn't water. It was a suspension of metallic isotopes, charcoal compounds, and mineral salts in concentrations that shouldn't occur naturally. It was a preservation medium, a liquid designed to prevent decay. And floating in that liquid, held in perfect stasis for over 12,000 years, were seeds. Not fossilized seeds, not mineralized impressions. Actual organic seeds, preserved so perfectly that the cellular structure was still intact. The botanist on the team identified species that went extinct during the Younger Dryas catastrophe, plants that haven't grown on Earth for 120 centuries, medicinal herbs mentioned in indigenous legends but never found by modern science. This wasn't a tomb, it was a vault. The people who built this place had seen disaster coming. They had watched the sky burn and the world freeze. They knew their civilization was going to die, so they did something incredible. They preserved the seeds of their world. They created a biological time capsule and sealed it inside a mountain, protected by melted rock and magnetic minerals, hoping that someone, someday, would find it and bring their plants back to life. This was a doomsday vault, exactly like the Svalbard Global Seed Vault that exists in Norway today. But this one was built 12,000 years before we thought humans were capable of such thinking. Along the walls of the chamber, the team found sealed clay jars. Inside were more seeds, dried tubers, pressed leaves, and something else that stopped them cold. Small glass beads, thousands of them, embedded in the clay. These beads are called microspherules. They only form under very specific conditions, when rock or soil is heated to extreme temperatures, vaporized, and then rapidly cooled. There are only two things that can create microspherules: nuclear explosions and cosmic impacts. Dr. Vasquez immediately understood what she was looking at. The Younger Dryas impact hypothesis suggests that around 12,800 years ago, fragments of a comet struck the Earth. The impacts triggered massive wildfires across entire continents. The debris thrown into the atmosphere blocked out the sun, causing temperatures to plummet. For years, mainstream science dismissed this theory. There wasn't enough physical evidence. But here, in a sealed chamber in the Amazon, was proof. The microspherules in the clay matched the exact chemical signature of impact debris found at other Younger Dryas sites around the world. The people who built this vault hadn't just predicted disaster. They had survived it. They had witnessed the sky catch fire and the world freeze. And they had built this place to preserve what little they could save. The melted rock sealing the entrance suddenly made terrifying sense. The heat from the impact, or the fires that followed, had been so intense it vitrified the stone. The builders might have been trapped inside, or they might have sealed themselves in deliberately, knowing the surface world was dying. The team found more evidence of the catastrophe in the deeper sections of the vault. Ash layers, charred organic material, and most disturbingly, what appeared to be handprints pressed into the soot on the walls, frozen in the moment of impact. Someone was alive in this chamber when the sky burned. Someone touched these walls as the world ended outside. Either way, they left everything behind. Their tools, their seeds, their knowledge. They left a message for whoever came next. But the discoveries weren't finished yet. Along the eastern wall of the chamber, partially hidden behind a curtain of mastodon ribs, the team found something that didn't belong. Tools, not crude stone implements, but precisely crafted instruments made from obsidian, volcanic glass that doesn't exist anywhere in the Amazon basin. The nearest obsidian deposits are in the Andes Mountains, over 1,500 miles away, across some of the most brutal terrain on Earth. Finding these tools here was like finding a polar bear in the Sahara Desert. It simply doesn't fit any conventional explanation. The tools were laid out with unsettling precision, chisels arranged in parallel rows, cutting implements organized by size. It looked exactly like a surgeon's table or a craftsman's workbench, as if someone had just stepped away for a moment and was about to return. But no one returned. Here's the part that keeps researchers up at night. The team searched every inch of that chamber. They scanned the walls. They analyzed the floor. They looked for burial pits, cremation remains, any evidence of human bodies. They found nothing. 12,000 years ago, someone built this vault, filled it with preserved seeds, arranged mastodon bones into a cathedral, created a chemical pool to prevent decay, and then vanished without a trace. No skeletons, no bones, no remains of any kind. If they died in the cave, where are the bodies? If they left, why did they leave their most valuable possessions behind? Arranged so carefully it looked like they expected to return any moment. Dr. Vasquez has a theory. She believes the builders knew they couldn't survive what was coming. They sealed the vault not for themselves, but for future generations. They sacrificed everything to preserve the genetic heritage of their world. But there are other theories, darker theories. Some researchers point to the electromagnetic anomalies in the chamber walls. The magnetic field is strong enough to affect equipment from outside the cave. What would that kind of field do to a human body over thousands of years? Could the remains have been somehow dissolved, converted to energy, absorbed into the rock itself? Indigenous legends speak of places where the boundaries between worlds grow thin, places where people can step from this reality into another. The Amazon tribes call these people the Ant People, beings who retreated into the earth when the sky fell. What if the builders didn't die in the cave? What if they didn't leave through the entrance? What if they found another way out? This discovery forces us to confront an uncomfortable truth. Everything we thought we knew about ancient humans might be wrong. We were taught that civilization began in Mesopotamia around 6,000 years ago. Before that, humans were primitive hunter-gatherers with no permanent settlements, no engineering knowledge, no understanding of astronomy or agriculture or preservation science. But this vault proves otherwise. Whoever built this place understood geology. They knew which rocks to use for construction and where to find them hundreds of miles away. They understood chemistry well enough to create a preservation medium that kept organic material intact for 12,000 years. They understood agriculture at a level that we still can't fully replicate today. And they understood astronomy. The star map on the mural outside matches the sky from a specific moment in time, accurate to within decades. That requires centuries of careful observation. That requires mathematics. That requires civilization. This brings us to the mother culture theory. For decades, researchers have noticed something strange. Ancient sites all over the world share similar symbols, similar construction techniques, similar astronomical alignments. Göbekli Tepe in Turkey, the pyramids of Giza, the megalithic structures of Peru, the underwater ruins off the coast of Japan. How is it possible that cultures separated by oceans and continents all developed the same ideas independently? Unless they didn't develop them independently. Unless there was a global civilization that existed before the Younger Dryas impact. A civilization that was destroyed in the catastrophe, leaving only scattered survivors and fragmented knowledge. The Amazon vault might be the clearest evidence yet that this mother culture was real. The obsidian tools found in the chamber came from volcanic sources over 1,500 miles away. That means trade networks spanning the continent. That means navigation. That means organization on a scale we never imagined possible for that era. Some researchers go even further. They point to the golden artifacts found at similar sites throughout South America. Small figurines that look suspiciously like aircraft, with aerodynamic wings and vertical stabilizers. Put one of these objects in a wind tunnel, and it generates lift. Did these ancient people have flight? Did they have technology we've lost the ability to even imagine? The evidence is piling up, and mainstream archaeology doesn't have answers. Here's what keeps me thinking about this discovery at 3 a.m. The people who built that vault saw catastrophe coming. They watched their world end, and instead of giving up, they did something extraordinary. They built a bunker. They preserved seeds. They left star maps and murals and messages, hoping that someone in the distant future would find them and understand. They were thinking about us, about people who wouldn't be born for another 12,000 years. That level of long-term thinking is almost incomprehensible. Most of us can barely plan for next month. But here's the uncomfortable part. The Younger Dryas impact wasn't a one-time event. Astronomers have identified several asteroid and comet fragments that cross Earth's orbit regularly. The question isn't whether another impact will happen. The question is when. And if it happens tomorrow, what would we leave behind? We have our own seed vaults now. We have digital archives. We have nuclear bunkers. But would any of it survive 12,000 years? Would future archaeologists open our vaults and find anything worth saving? The Amazon discovery is a mirror. It shows us what humans are capable of when they face extinction and choose hope over despair. It shows us that civilization has risen and fallen before, possibly many times, and that each time someone tried to preserve what mattered most. Maybe that's the real message in the vault, not just seeds and bones and chemical pools, but a reminder that the end is never really the end. As long as someone is willing to build for the future, something always survives. So what do you think? Are there more vaults hidden under the Amazon canopy, waiting to be discovered? Did an advanced civilization really exist before recorded history? And was it destroyed by a cosmic impact? Drop your theories in the comments below. I read every single one. And if this video made you think, if it made you question what you thought you knew about human history, smash that like button. It helps more people find this content. Subscribe if you haven't already, because we're just getting started. The Amazon is giving up its secrets, and you don't want to miss what we uncover next. Thanks for watching. Stay curious. And remember, the past isn't as settled as they want you to believe.